for coming out today. Sorry, guys. Thank you all for coming out today. My name is Sydney Ellison, and I'm the programs manager here at Baxter Street. And it is with great pleasure that I introduce this talk tonight. The show Through Fragility is part of our guest curatorial open call, which is supported by the Philip and Edith Leonian Foundation. And it has been such a pleasure to work on the show and to get to understand the artist's practice a little bit more and to get to understand Junghyun's process in putting it all together and connecting their different bodies of work. So I'm so excited that you all get to be let in on that a little bit today. And I hand it over now.
Thank you, Sydney, and thank you all of you for joining us tonight. Yeah, I'm quite nervous, but yeah, I'm gonna relax. Yeah, my name is Junghyun Kim, the curator of this exhibition, and Through Fragility has just started from a very simple question. What if we reimagine the relationship between the glass and photography, which is very has long been together, and also the glass has always supported for the photography. So I wanna just invert the relationship. So, and then more broadly, the concept of the fragility. So, and as we develop the exhibition, the concept of fragility has expanded into more social and technological and even ontological context of today. So I invited these two beautiful artists, Kai Oh and Juyon Lee, and they have long been working with the glass and photography, that, to be specific, the digital imagery. And, but their approach and their interpretation is quite different. So I want to discuss about that distinctive approaches and the interpretation today. So before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to thank you, the Baxter Street SDCNY, especially Jill, Sydney, and Alex, and Candela. Yeah, it's quite difficult to remember. And the entire team for their incredible support for in making this exhibition and also tonight's programs possible. And also a warm thank you, both of you, Juyon and Kai, your beautiful contribution for the show and for tonight's talk. So today's talk will run for about 80 minutes, and we'll open the floor for questions tonight, the end. So before we dive into the conversation, I'm gonna briefly introduce the two artists. Kai Oh is an artist who expands the boundaries of photography by capturing the vitality that exists between the human and non-human, and living and non-living within the urban spaces. So she explores the fluid and ever-changing nature of digital images and reimagines the flat surfaces of photography by bringing it into physical space. So Kai, could you introduce yourself? Yeah.
Hi, thank you so much everyone for coming all the way here for tonight's talk. And hopefully I'll be giving fruitful information of my new works, and yeah.
And Juyon Lee, she developed a strong awareness of the tension and dissonance that come from living across different times and places. So using elements like light and air and materials such as glass and silk, she explores how memory, emotion, and perception shape our senses of presence. So Juyon, could you tell us about how do you feel tonight?
How do I feel tonight? I feel great. I'm very delighted to be here and very thankful for everyone who made it all the way here on Friday night. And also deep gratitude for Junghyun and Kai and the Baxter team. And just, it's a wonderful day.
To begin with, we prepared a short tour for the show. So they are gonna briefly introduce their new work, especially the Vulnerable and Naked and Juyeon's Wing of the Light. So we are gonna move to the gallery inside. So you can just let the bags in your spot.
There, there. Should bring this, right? I should use this. Yeah. Okay. All right. Hi, everybody. Juyon. And just for a little bit of context, I was born in Seoul, Korea, and I moved to the US in 2006, which is almost 20 years ago. So there's been sort of this accrued experience of living apart from my family, especially my grandparents that I grew up with. And I'm telling you this because all the work actually began from the experience of losing my grandfather in fall 2023. So 2 years ago, around this time of the year. And at that time, I unfortunately wasn't able to attend the funeral. And I was in a residency in Connecticut. And I think I had this very strong desire to stay connected to my family, but then the only thing that I could actually have access to were images or photos that I exchanged with my family about the funeral process, or text messages, or video calls, or screenshots of video calls. So there was this like growing personal photo archive of those digitized interactions. And as you can see, or you might be wondering, because Baxter Street is lens-based space, and you're like, oh, where are the photographs? Actually, they are all photographs. Each body of work has a set of woven imagery, so each imagery has 2 photos from 2 different places and times. So for instance, that piece over there has an image from my girl. His body was like beautifully wrapped in hanji, which is a Korean mulberry paper, and a light coming into my studio. And the process started from printing these out and then splicing them by hand and then weaving them, and then rephotographing it, and then using that woven imagery to apply it to glass. And the Wing of the Light is the main piece, and you can see that there's this glass pool in like an oval shape, and there's water in it, and then there's the pump kind of stirring the water and moving the reflection. And I consider this as another form of an image that's moving in real time. And you can see that there is a neon that is, there's a question about where's the beginning and where's the end of this neon piece, but it connects the ground and then reaches upward. And it intersects this slumped glass piece. And for the context, you can also kind of get close to see just watch out the quartz. You can just see the pieces up close too. For the context, the woven images that are embedded in this particular piece is this last winter, I had an opportunity to go to Korea and visit this Buddhist temple where my grandmother's urn will be. She's very healthy and well alive, but we were just kind of on a mission to pick a spot for her. So the middle section is actually where her urn will be, but it was empty, and then I kind of looked at the reflection of myself about these upcoming futures that I will revisit that place like over and over. And then I hand wove that section with a view of an airplane when I was landing over New York City at night, and it felt like this kind of cityscape looked like stars were kind of scattered all like across the ground. And using that woven imagery, and then I digitally layered with a video call that I had with my mom, and she was showing my grandmother, who's actually lying right there, and her feet are right there. She was wearing red socks, and she was horizontal and kind of on like a futon. And this was something that I kind of recognized over time, that as you age and the body is aging and decaying, and you start losing energy, and the body starts like near the ground. So I started to think a lot about body's relationship to gravity and energy, and how these like digitized interactions and the fleeting moments that I try to capture don't really have a physical body, but I had this like strong urge to give something tangible to those moments. So hence the glass and the slumped forms, and I'll talk about details later. And I'll hand over to Kai.
Thank you. Yeah, so when you enter the space, you'll face two different series from me. One, 3 frames on the wall. It's called Double Glass series, and the new work that I made for this exhibition is called Vulnerable and Naked, which is these 3 pieces that you see with the drawings. For the double glass series, I especially wanted to show this series because it's the main material of the work is the glass, especially 2 type of glass, which is non-reflective and replacement glass. I'll talk about it a little bit deeper later on for that. And for the Vulnerable Naked, actually the title is coming from the conversation that I had with my friend. Actually, like, it's really hot in here, so I'll take off my jacket. Thank you. Yeah. So a friend of my friend Ben, we were talking about some travel story and talked about this phrase, vulnerable and naked. And English is not my mother tongue, it's only my second language. Then hearing that phrase, I immediately thought that literally like naked and vulnerable state of mind, that you're completely bare and lost. I really like that quote from the story. Then that idea kind of connected to the idea of fragility on my end. So it's the vulnerability that is actually something that should be encouraged, in my opinion, especially when we think about the interaction that's happening in online space, social media, and we try to just present things in a perfect way, but actually the reality is like so different, right? So yeah, it was coming from there. Then I think we can move back to the seats and talk more about works, I guess. Yeah. Thank you for carrying my jacket.
아니요, 저도
Yeah. Did you guys enjoy the explanation of from the artist? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, okay. So if you wanna take a sit, yeah, please. So yeah, so I wanna make the follow-up questions for the explanation. So, first, Kai, yeah, let's begin with this one. Actually, they first try to new approaches to for this exhibition, both of them. So the first time, Kai, you tried pencil drawings, right? So could you tell us about that new approach? Why did you
Yeah.
apply the pencil drawings, which is more tactile sense?
Yeah, I personally really enjoy engaging new technique whenever I make work on a new body of work. This time, it was the pencil drawing, and I happened to join a project with my friend Soeun, who's not here. She's now in Seoul. But anyway, there's a project called Far Away Nearby, and we the mission was we are having dialogue for like 5 months together, and I decided to practice drawings using this time because I've never really done drawing before. Then I started making drawing with dots, which you might see on the screen. Yeah, something like this, because it was way more easier than drawing something figurative. So I thought this was something totally separate from what I was working on, which was the digital collage that you see over there. So it was not planned to have the drawing from the very first. Then also at the same period, I had this part-time at Art Academy, and I was teaching younger students, and mainly it was pencil drawings. And I realized that I have this kind of muscle memory with pencil drawings from a long time ago. So they kind of merged together in the new series. And for me, it made sense because it makes the contrast between the printed photos and when you draw, it's more visible how you spend the time, and also the bodily movements are really there. So I thought it really makes sense when I wanted to talk about the real experience that you have apart from the screen and so on. Especially the photos were taken in Syracuse, where I did 1 month residency at Lightwork. Yeah, so yeah, if that answered your question, yeah.
For Juyon, you first tried to invite the body images in this new work. So, but in your previous work, created in 2021, and you invited the air and the kind of wind and that kind of and also formless materials, right? And also currently more current work, which is wet photographs series that you use the landscape images that explores the what is being, and also you used I felt that you wanna invite the air, also the air and the light and the kind of invisible materials. But I think the context is continued. But in this new work, The Wing of the Light, you brought more personal narrative and also the incorporated images of the body. Actually, it's very personal, and also it's not the public body images. It's only your very close one's body images. So I think that's very special, and also. So I want to ask you, how did you brought that images, and also how did you invite the narrative?
Yeah, thank you. Well, during COVID, I actually got to start working with glass, and then I'll talk more about it too, but it kind of helped me to work with thinking about perceptual shifts through the object and light, and also residues of actual experiences, so through photography and video. And then I continued those kinds of image-based, sculptural, installation-based works. And then, like I said in the tour, that in fall, I didn't expect that my grandfather would pass, but he did. And it was just kind of a response that I had to just kind of make the work. It took me time to get there. So, like, I didn't just start making work, like, okay, I have like all these images and I'm just gonna like produce the work. Like, that's not how it, like, I was just kind of, I think I was just like getting obsessed with all these like records and trying to like hold on to it, and it's probably just like a form of like grieving process. And then months, like probably like half a year later, then I started to feel like, okay, now I'm like, I like really want to do something with it. I don't know where it's gonna go, but I just like need to do something with it. So in a way, it was kind of like vomiting. like it's not like I was like intending to make it, but it was more of like a something that I just had to kind of get it out of myself, and then that's kind of how it began.
It's quite very natural process, right?
Yeah, it was. I mean, any process for me is very organic, but that one was just, I guess, the level of intensity in terms of like emotional shifts was quite,
Right.
you know.
So actually, we prepared these images, right?
Oh yeah. I think
um,
you might skip something. No. Oh yeah. So that's just like an example of some of the images that I wove. It's kind of weird because like I talked to Junghyun a lot about how, oh, like I can show this work, like this image, but no, I don't want to show this image.
Yeah.
Like I don't want people to see this image, but I'm actually okay with this image. But then it like changes over time.
But actually, they are not that different. Yeah. Yeah.
Like I don't know. Like I'm fine with showing an image of this light that entered into my studio in Connecticut during the funeral time, and then this is the image I got from my family where my grandfather's body was being laid. And for some reason, like I'm like okay with showing that. Although the work itself, I didn't. I tried to just sort of abstract it further by weaving and bringing them into the same dimension.
And you also, how can you next press?
Oh yeah, so that's like a example of the woven paper surface, and I just kind of put it out under the sun, and then kind of see the changes with the little loops coming off the, not coming off, but like I just like pulled the little loops, and then the shadows were being casted and then changing over time, and yeah, just kind of let it be in the passage of time. And it loops back, so you can you can move on. Oh yeah, and then it led to the work like this, where before glass, I also started working with resin, and this is the kind of work that came out kind of afterwards, called Bodiless Travels. There's some glass pieces on the right, and these are resin fiber based, still using photographs.
Yeah. My next question is about our theme of the exhibition. And I want to start with the material aspect of the fragility, which is glass. So yeah, in previous our conversation, I found that both of your approaches and interpretation quite different. In short, Kai, your exploration with the glass was started from the frame photographic frames, you can see that one the double glass series, and then Juyon, yours began from the distortion of the camera lens, right? And then Kai, she described about the glass as very thin and fragile and also very easy to control. But Juyon, you described glass as very extremely hot, which is very unexpected. And you said it's very unexpected material, also very transformable, and it's heavy as the human body. So I thought it's very interesting. So I want to share that ideas with you guys today. So could you tell us about that? How you perceived and how did you experience with the glass, and how did you, the story related to the glass? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Was it?
So what you're seeing on the slide is the first series that I made with the glass. I was repurposing this sheet of glass, which is like I talked about before, it's the replacement glass panel. And rather than protecting the surface, I want it to be the place where the actual photos are taped and hang and exist as a support structure. So using the digital collage images, printed out images, I try to reorganize the composition within the frame. Then later on, I became to focus on two different aspects, like the transparency and the very subtle reflection that you see from the glass. Is something I found it very interesting because it's also the very flatness and this kind of incompromisable flatness. So maybe when you go to the next slide, when you see the bottom right one, there's a tiny little triangle shape that you see, over there. That's also glass. So I want the glass to support the paper, the printed paper, and also more like a mosaic, or what is that? The stained glass kind of direction, making this flat but sculptural shape. I also tried in my studio. Then in between, I made the double glass series. Then below two photo is from the urban glass. I had a chance to take a class over there and did the kiln forming, which Juyon is actually kind of mastering. I really enjoyed making shapes and form with the glass. But then so far, I think scoring and just fabricating as little as possible in my studio, it's actually enough for what I want to achieve with my works. So that's so far my glass experience.
I just want to say that I really love the way you use these glass that act as barrier and then kind of use the perpendicularity to create structure with them. But yeah. Oh yeah, so this is like a very common thing you'd see if you enter a hot shop and like try to learn glass blowing. It's like you can go to the next slide, thank you. And this is kind of the result that you could get, although I think like glass, like real like glass artists would be like, oh, that's not what you would aim for. But I was more interested in how malleable glass can be under extreme heat and how it draws itself and record the way it is shaped and formed through time and movement, and the kind of meditative state that I enter in as like the glass moves and I'm like watching it move, and then this comes out afterwards. So before I approached a glass studio thinking about making my own lenses, not kind of a lens to see things clearly, but more to kind of refract and to distort and to reveal how one can perceive things like visually through light as well. And we can go to the next slide. And then this is a little kind of an experimental piece that I did at iPark residency during the time of the funeral. And at that time, I was gravitating towards materials that feel heavier and has a greater like sense of weight. So before I was like more drawn to like movement in real time, light, ethereal materials, like things that like destabilize the image, like silk and that gets stirred by air, etc. And then I just kind of started to look at things that are like more on the ground. And then, yeah, and this is one of the piece that sort of little fragment that came out of that process of thinking. This is like a concrete piece with like resin poured in it, and then there's a glass orb that I made sitting on top, and then you can see sort of the surroundings being reflected onto the surface. And then after I started to work with images, like woven images, I started doing this thing called kiln forming, where you go to a facility with kilns, and they kind of look like a coffin, especially if you scale things up, and just kind of, it's like a really dumb toaster, because like you have to just like watch it, kind of how it circulates the heat and air, not air, but the heat. And yeah, and this process was still similar in a way that I was drawn to the way the glass could be transformed through heat, time, and gravity, but it took a lot more patience. Because the unpredictable quality of glass, especially with something like this, is like I had to like really watch it like this kind of fragile thing that could break easily. Because I was also like kind of stretching the boundaries of like what it can do, and even if I ask somebody who really knows glass, they're like, "Well, you just kind of have to do it." like you don't know. So I was like, okay. So it took a lot of patience, and started to think more about that kind of actual fragile quality of glass as well. Oh yeah, and just thinking about how it would just touch the ground, and these kinds of images would have a body of its own.
I think the big differences between you was that Kai, you used ready-made glass, right? And that she just cut out and very easily from the frame glass, and then Juyon, you literally create, right? And by using the fire and kiln, so that's the made big gaps between you. And so to talk about the theme of fragility, it brought the gap between gap of the interpretation. So, but in this exhibition, I wanted to look at the fragility as from very multiple layers and angles. And also, I want to see the fragility not as only the weakness, but as the potential power to connect and bind all together, and also something inherent to all of us. So, so the interesting aspect of your works was, and also by while I was making this exhibition, there was unexpected aspect from the artist interpretation. So we want to talk about that one. So how when I first asked you to make a new piece for the fragility, how did you want to approach to the theme, and then how did you express the theme? And yeah, to be specific, Kai, you want to talk about algorithms, right? The more technical issues in these days, and also, but whereas Juyon, you want to talk about more ontological theme, right? So could you tell us about that one?
Yeah, so, yeah, anywhere's good. Yes, I think working with glass, well, so I've had kind of, for a while, had continued interest in asking questions about how being exists, and like perception in relation to like perception of reality and time and space. And it's actually not that much, it's not that far away from, like what I'm showing here in this show is not very far from the questions that I had, and it's just kind of like another branch. Because through this process, I was able to just kind of think more about the condition of mortality, human condition of mortality, and how fragile a being can be. But also with glass, I love this sort of like material poetics, and love just like being involved in the making process, because I learned so much about different like unexpected things that these things like objects or materials can do. And like you said, like glass is like, it's fragile, but also there is kind of a quality of resilience too, in the making, but also yeah, after it's being made as well. So yes.
For the fragility, I had two main focus. One was the psychological vulnerability that I shortly shared with you over there. Then the other one is the how the materiality of the paper could be fragile or not. So what you see here is the little tryouts, how I can build the structure only with the paper, how to make it stand. I firstly tried origami and different type of folding techniques, but then I felt like the shape or figurative form that's within the origami was something so bold. So rather than that, I tried to experiment in this direction. Then also, Junghyun, you talked about the algorithm, and I also talked about the online interaction. So some of you would know that I always focus. I mean, my primarily I primarily work with digital collage, mixing different photos together. I do that because that enables one photo to be kind of infinite, because you always can concentrate on different elements like shapes or composition, or like it's endless. Also, when the combination adds on, then it's like multiple. So cause I had this deep fatigue just being on social media and stuff, cause I thought it was more possible in the past to be more expressive on what you're liking or what you want to share than, like, I think it's been like 4 or 5 years minimum that it really became everyone's marketing and promotion tool. Then, but still you can't really get out of it. So, but then this period in Syracuse was perfect timing for me, because it really allowed me to have distance from everyone and everywhere. So then I really walked a lot of places by myself, because I didn't have a car, and it's like, not a like super interesting city that you want to explore around. So yeah, then like sudden like accident or like you would find this like real human brain from 1930s in a cafe, because one of the nurse brought the whole jar to the cafe during their lunch break or something. Like, it's like so cliche, but you would easily just not you wouldn't catch it when you're just on the phone, and just it's about how you really be present and observe things in front of you and be really conscious about it. So I really didn't use so much of internet or whatever that I was used to during the period. Then I wrote a lot, opening my blog and just writing journals and stuff. Yeah, so so what I tried to achieve through this work was making a pattern, but the pattern that is not repetitive. It's a kind of ever-evolving type of surface. That's why I ended up making this sculpture that was the last one that I made throughout 3 works. So yeah, I wanted to involve more dimensions to it, that you could kind of expand this repetitive but non-repetitive imageries.
Yeah. So as a follow-up questions, I want to talk about that repetition, right? So because in your previous work that we already saw, especially you created in 2019 to 2021 in faces here, you guys can see the faces and void circles forms and the kind of repetition here, and also in eyes, the motif of the eyes was repeated, and also that repetition was I can hear my voice from here. So yeah, so repetition creates the new context and the new relationship between the visual elements. And then, but in vulnerable and naked, you also you still use that kind of repetition, like as you can see here, the tangerine peels and the brain that you mentioned, and also the paper cups, yeah, and the other things. But that repetition reminds me about the recursivity. So because I thought recursivity is not only simple repetition, it goes beyond repetition. I think that is about how we renew when we organize through itself, through the self-reference and self-organization, right? So, and also I currently learned about the Yukui's recursivity. So from his theory, I wanted to ask about how we can see we can compare the AI's recursivity and also the human's recursivity, because you interpret, you try to reinterpret the circular forms by making it as 3D forms. Here, you roll the paper and make a cylinders, and also you can see the shadows here, right? So I think that's a new approach. Yeah. So and for example, the AI self-reference creates a certain weighting in the running process, and which can eventually lead to bias. But we talked about you wanna stop that kind of patterns, right? And you wanna stop patterns yourself, and also you believe that humans can stop and can make a pause to think and edit and also create new ones. So could you talk about that one? In a process, you make this new work. Have you tried any? Have you feel any that kind of recursivity or patterns, or yeah, that kind of feelings, or what did you try or attempt to overcome the patterns?
Yeah, it's a really good and big question. I mean, when we want to talk about AI and stuff, I think it will be another big chapter of the whole conversation. But mine was really simple. So it was really, I really took it in a symbolic way that, you know, when you think about pattern, it's something that is repetitive, but even though you're recognizing the similar elements going on in a similar way, but because I really wanted to get out of that trap of algorithm and just focusing on my own self, I symbolically spread it out with this pattern, and yeah, so that's how I started. This is how I started this series before getting there. There were no pencil drawings or but it was overlap of time with my past and the present, but that's like from April. So with recursivity, it's a really big word for me, I feel like. But what is sure is that that there's, I think what human brain can do is connect the randomness and recreate and you know destroy and then rebuilding it. Then through my digital collaging process, I felt like my resonance and also emotions like were kind of having its unique flow with that edits. So I think that's something distinctive from the like computer generated AI or like the formula based type of algorithm, that there's something always that weird gap that you cannot really fill in, but only like emotions can involved there. So
When I first saw the images, I asked you about, isn't it patterns, right? Especially for that one, I could feel that it's pattern. But you said to break the pattern, you should make a pattern first, right? Yeah, right. So yeah, and then yeah, and for Juyon, um, while we were making this exhibition, you shared a lot stories about related to your grandfather, right? And also, I shared my familiar loss of mine, and also we talked about the death that happens in the social context recently. So my question was that, during the process, I felt that death is not only personal. It cannot be only personal, right? So we have common feelings about the death, even if we are late or not. Then also, but that in that context, I thought the concept of fragility that I wanted to eventually talk about through this exhibition is very related to your works under the theme of death. So because as I mentioned, the death is and fragility concept is that we all carry inside us, and also it makes us vulnerable and dependent, and also very prone to collapse. But eventually, through that process, we take care of each other, and also what else? The embrace others, right? So I think that make us more strong, but vulnerable and strong, and also eventually we feel that we are not different that that much. So, but during the process, we cried a lot to share the feelings.
Cried so much.
And
I cried yesterday.
Yeah, right. And she was really confused to open this experience with others in public, right? And also during the exhibition, you also mentioned about I don't want to show these images directly, or I just let the audience to see in their way, right? So I think that thoughts was I wanted to respect that thoughts, but to make a distance with the personal experience, I think that's quite challenging, right? Because this was your first try, so that kind of death as the personal, but it's very common feelings to deal with that kind of issue. How did you make a distance, and how did you want to make your attitude toward that one?
I think it's impossible to make to distance myself from this because it's like coming from my own experience. But something that surprised me was, like you said, it took me a while to. I feel like it might have taken me, at least like psychologically, I felt like it took so long to just make the decision, like I am gonna make a work from this very personal experience about regarding death and grieving and anticipating the loss of a family member. But something that surprised me was that something so specific to me has sort of become like an invitation or like a portal of sort for other people. And yeah, that was something that kind of surprised me. This also came up through our conversation too, that like I've been always interested in sort of universalities, like things that are that we share as just like living beings. Because with death too, it's like we all know that we're all gonna die at some point, but we just kind of don't think about it as much. But day to day, and but yeah, I think that specificity. Well, to go back to your question about the distance, maybe not distance, but in terms of how I deliver the contextual layering. I was and am still like kind of opposed to exposing too much of the image themselves as is, because it kind of also doesn't really mean much to anyone else but me. It's just like you see something and then like it might be like, okay, this is just like a photo of something. And I think the layering through like our catalog was a really great opportunity to add that contextual layer. And also that I also just learned that like some things you just need to take time to process, just like grief and mourning. And doesn't have to be like, yeah, I think just my immediate reaction was like, I don't want to make something that's immediately consumable or like easy to grasp. Like, okay, this is, oh, I see a picture of this, or and kind of let people enter in a different way. That makes sense.
And you also uses, I mean, the attitude from you reverse from the Victoria Chance.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
So during this whole thing, actually, what helped me to make these works was I was reading a lot of poems and writings and interviews. When I like start getting obsessed about, this is just me. Like when I get obsessed about something, I just like dig really deep. So Victoria Chang was one of the writers that I did a lot of I don't know, I guess research on, but more in a way to heal too. And she's a really wonderful poet who has written about death and grief for over a decade. And I was like, there's somebody who like wrote about death for that long. And that kind of gave me a courage too, to just say what I got to say. And when I was thinking about, okay, what do I, if I don't make this, then what would I make? And I just kind of couldn't think of anything else at that time. So for that time, it was like important for me to just push through it and to make the work. But this image is, it's also in the catalog where I was telling my grandma like, give me your hand, and then she like put it, she was on this like electric blanket, like this warm blanket in winter, and she was like on the floor and just kind of like, okay. And then I just like took a picture of her hand, and then in the summer, I was experimenting with glass casting, and asked my mom, who's actually here today, to do like a phone 3D scan of my grandma's hand. And it's actually really hard to 3D scan a hand because like the camera would like pick up random details in the background. It's because it's so intricate. And I was like, just try multiple times, use these apps. And then I got all these files from her, and then tried making glass casts from 3D printed hand from the 3D scan file that I received from her through the phone. And it's actually quite flat the way it came out. It feels quite flat, but it's like heavy, and it's really weird because it's cold when you hold it. It's not like an actual hand, but it just takes the form of a hand. But yeah, Victoria Chang's poems really helped me a lot in terms of putting words around the things that I felt. Yeah, and I think that, and going back to your question about the distance, maybe not distance, but I think having a bit more sense of ground and clarity, like kind of finding refuge in those words really helped. Yeah. Yeah, so I actually brought this book called Obit by her, and it's in every book is in a form of, like, you can see that it's in like a newspaper obituary form, and it kind of, I read a review about how somebody was commenting on it also kind of mimics the form of like a coffin. And for every poem, it starts with the word, and it's like subject died on blah 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 blah, and then it goes on. A poem that I would love to share with you all tonight is called Subject Matter, which is also in the catalog. Subject matter always dies. What we are left with is architecture, form, sound, all in a room darkened, a few chairs unarranged. The door is locked from the inside, but still, subject matter breaks in, and all the others rise. My mother's death is not her story. My father's stroke is not his story. I am not my mother's story, not my father's story. But there is a meeting place that is hidden, one that holds all the maps toward indifference. Can pain be separated from subject matter? Can subject matter take flight and lose its way, peck on another tree? How do you walk heavily with subject matter on your back without trampling all the meadows? Yeah. It's a great book.
Yeah, that was my last question, and thank you for the talk. And so I'd like to toss the microphone to the floor. So if you guys have any questions to the artist,
Or Junghyun.
oh no, yeah. So please, anybody? Oh, you have a question. Thank you, Alex.
I'm just sort of curious about, both of the artists. You obviously have a familiarity with your own work, and having spent time with it before seeing it in the space here, and having this combination of both of your practices next to each other, and there's obviously like some real common thread, testament to the curation. I'm just curious about what you both think about what's happening between the two of your combinations of works, and yeah, just to talk about that maybe.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for the question. We had this common space for the glass from the first, and we were actually really surprised that we have such a different approach and experiences to this specific material. And I really enjoyed our conversation about the glass facilities, how glass is reacting to different temperature, that this facility has like cold and hot shop together next to each other. I think that's kind of how like different it's total different approach. Then I'm really happy that two like several different body of work next to each other seems like really generating their own conversation together. Also, yeah, I will toast. Yeah.
And following that, we also talked about, it's in the, I'm referring to the catalog again, I'm like very PRing it a lot right now. Because in the catalog, it contains the written record of our conversation between the three of us. And we also talked about how we are using digital or digitized images, but our main goal, or not, I don't know if goal is the right word, but something that's important in both of our works is the presence of the human body. And just having this like actual experience and kind of dissonance between experiencing things through the mediation of the screen versus the things that we encounter in the real world. And yeah.
I want to add a comment. Because that's the more curatorial question, right? So yeah, so we prepared for this exhibition for 1 year, almost 1 year, and then we, at the beginning part, I asked to the artist to, I don't want to separate the artist works, and then also because these are all new, so we talked about how we collaborate together, and also including me, and also actually this was the first exhibition of two artists that for me that I curated, so it was quite challenging. And then yeah, and then for example, to set up to arrange each artworks, it was really tricky. Because as you can see, Kai's works has dynamics and very contemporary, and also Julian's works need some space to make a pause, and it's more need some silence. I thought that one. So we discussed a lot about that one, but I want to respect their own perspective to the fragility. And also, so I try to make a booklet, the catalog. So we, the designer and I, and the artist wanna, as you can see through the catalog, they are not all together. I didn't merge into one piece, but I thought that's how to I respect each other's works. But then we, how can I say? Yeah, but we had a lot of conversations, so you can see the conversations part at the catalog, and then I think they weave a lot of concept and experience too, right? So, and I wanna audiences can see the view in a very different angles. So through Kai's Vulnerable and Naked, there's some space to see the Juryon's works, and also Juryon's work has the neon, so it reflects to the Kai's works. So yeah, that's what I tried. But I think I wanted to deliver this my intention to the audience. Yeah. Thank you for the question. It was very nice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question. I can yell. I can talk loud. I'm curious to know, based on all the conversations you've had, it's been a year of process and discussion. Have either three of you learned anything new or were surprised by this experience and the show and the work coming together?
I was not like extremely surprised, but actually the time that we had, like the time of a year, was something very special to me, because I usually was rushing more to produce new works and just fitting into the theme of the exhibition and so on realistically. But then this time it was like a real like relationship and connection building process rather than just making new works. So that was something very, very meaningful for me personally, and I believe that will be pretty much the same for all of us. Yeah, so what I was surprised by like how it's different when a certain amount of time is allowed, and and then I can also like digest and process things more properly, and I'm very grateful for the experience.
I don't know. I think there was, I guess there are always unexpected things or a lot of really good surprises. Like how, like Kai said, like how generous the support has been from Baxter Street, just to kind of trusting us to realize all these ideas and put up a show together. And everything's just like all new work. And also from Junghyun too. I feel like I would have had so much anxiety if I were you. Like, what are these people gonna make? Like, like why do I not see any like pictures? And like, you know, and just but then that having that full trust is like such a special experience, and also the amount of conversations that we had, that really that wasn't just like surface level or just like okay we're just only talking about work and like very businessy. It was just it really went deep, and I think those are the really wonderful surprises that I had from working with you all. Yeah.
For me, actually, this exhibition was the first exhibition that I curated as an independent curator, especially in New York City. So when I first got the email from Sydney, I got this opportunity that just worrying and anxiety just came up because I thought New York City is not that easy to make an exhibition, and I don't know. I didn't have any network to for the yeah and for the technicians and the kind of more realistic things. And I had lack of source of that kind of informations, and then and then so through this process I could learn a lot about how to make a exhibition in here, through your help, through Baxter's help, and also I realized that because I worked at the museum in Seoul, South Korea, for 5 years, and so I also had a big interest about the organizations, the ecosystem of the art world. So how the artists and the curators survive in the art field, having their own jobs and making their works they want to do, right? But I realized that Baxter is very perfect organizations, non-profit organizations to collaborate with. Yeah, really. So, yeah, I mean it actually. Yeah, because I also worked with the guest curator when I was in the museum, and it is not easy to collaborate with the person who came from outside, and thankfully they supported us as a member of this space, and because every asking could be cost a lot, right? But they afford, and also very the most I got moved thing was that they wanna just respect my perspective, and they wanna hear what I want to do. So I know that's really hard, but they did. And then so I realized that I thought that before I making this exhibition, I thought South Korea is more easy to make an exhibition, but it was quite easy for me to do this. And then, so through that experience, I could enjoy, and I remind that because I was quite struggle when I was in Korea, and I was almost want to quit the job as a curator because it's so hard. But I really enjoyed this process with the two of you, and then it was really joyful actually. Yeah, and then because I could be more light and be more casual, and I just wanna I could be just focused on what I want to do. So I realized that kind of ecosystem could be possible, right? And then also when I first wrote the proposal, I didn't know fragility. The idea of fragility can be this story. I mean, through the process, we faced a lot of vulnerable moments, such as Kai, you had a visa issue, right? So, and then as an immigrant, we are very vulnerable. And also, I lost one of my family member, and I was really sick. So, yeah. So I was really vulnerable in physical way, and also, So I found that a lot of layers of the fragility. Actually, Juyon and I discussed that we are not gonna cry today.
I'm not crying at my own artist talk.
I found the fragility has many layers and many aspects. So I wanna deliver that context with you guys. Yeah.
And also, sorry. I just really wanted to say that the other really, really wonderful surprise was Junghyun really... I'm not just saying this. I'm actually really picky. And I have really high standards. But like Junghyun really goes above and beyond her role as a curator and really cares for like every one of us. And I'm sure you've felt that too. And yeah, I think that's just something that I would really, a huge takeaway from this experience of working with you, with Baxter Street in this space.
Yeah, thank you all of, everyone. And if you wanna take a moment in the exhibition hall, and actually there's a other amazing show of the Sunny Coast one, so you can enjoy the time. Yeah, and thank you for tonight. Yeah.
Thank you.